cool. So I know what you might be thinking. This man has two microphones. Two microphones. One of them's got to be for show. But no, actually, because what I'm trying to do is record this as well on my laptop. And so I have two different angles. And we'll see how well this works. I don't even think I've set up the angles effectively, but that's for another time. So uh, today we're talking about sirens in Greek mythology. Siren, if you don't know what that is it was a woman, sort of. It had the head and torso of a woman. It was a Greek mythological character or creature. I don't know what you'd call it, but it had the head and torso of a woman and the wings and lower body of a bird, right? And they sang these beautifully enchanting songs that were just so beautiful, so enchanting. They would cause men to literally throw themselves into the sea and basically meet their death, right? And something that I kept reading as I was reminding myself, what is a siren? What is the story behind the sirens? Something that I kept reading was that they would cause the sailors or the men who would listen to their song to forget their home, which I found really interesting. And you're going to see how this all connects in just a moment. But the Greeks were warning us about entertainment and temptations that sound sweet, but we know to be dangerous. Even worse than that is the temptations that would grab a hold of us and that we were powerless to defeat. And they do this in a number of examples. For example, the island of Calypso, right? Where you can live the life of luxury at the expense of your purpose, right? Or another example is the Lotus Eaters, right? Where you can live in just this absolute satisfaction with yourself, basically like taking drugs, um, at the expense of your own physical health. The sirens, however, were a different type of entertainment. I was looking at this. It's not like taking drugs, it's not like living a life of luxury, but it's more like being entertained, like watching television or YouTube or Netflix or whatever your screen of choice is, right? But more importantly, it's those who would call to you to lead you astray, right? And so behind, television and screen time, all that stuff, behind all that is politicians, the actual sirens themselves, or governments, or corporations, or influencers, even. Yeah, they would all be considered sirens. Now, the influencers I see as kind of like a lesser siren, only because they don't necessarily have all the details of like, and I'm going to implement this program, but they're more so like those who are going along with the system. And so they're not quite as insidious or evil, I would think, as those who are in power, who are like, this is the program that we want to implement, this is what we want everybody to go along with. However, they're still going along with it, so they're still sirens, right? But in any case, all the sirens lead us to certain doom. And something I found really interesting while I was kind of reminding myself of these stories is that the sirens don't even eat people. They don't even eat people. And I was so certain. I was like, no, I thought, but those are harpies that eat people, right? Different mythological creature, right? But sirens don't even eat people. They would say that in the stories, the sailors would either throw themselves into the sea and die upon the rocks and get eaten by sea monsters, or they would find themselves in the company of these sirens and so captured by their song that they literally would die of starvation because they could do nothing else but listen to these sirens sing their song. Here's the best part, though. The best part is there's a story of Demeter, a Greek goddess, that says that, well, she's the Greek goddess who is the mother of Persephone, and she was upset by her daughter Persephone being captured by Hades or Pluto or whatever his name is, into the netherworld, right? And she blamed or put at least some responsibility on the sirens. And so there's a story here that says she cursed the sirens for having let her daughter be abducted. And the curse was basically that they would live until someone, some mortal, heard their song and was able to pass by them unscathed, right? And there are two such stories that we know of where mortals were able to pass by the sirens. One is the story of the Argonauts, where Orpheus, who is this like really skilled musician apparently, was able to drown out their song with a song of his own that he played on the lyre, which I imagine to be like this little tiny harp, you know? And the other is the story of Odysseus, where he has his men stuff their ears with wax so they cannot hear, but they can continue to row the boat and do all the other duties on the boat. And he himself does not have his ears stuffed with wax, but he's tied to the mast of the ship, so tightly bound that he can't move, right? And he couldn't voluntarily, if he wanted to, throw himself into the ocean, right? And he instructs his men, hey, whatever I say, don't untie me, right? Not that they could hear him anyway. But meanwhile, they're passing by these sirens, and he's like, okay, untie me. Untie me. I was wrong before. Just let me go. I'm ready. Let me jump in. Let me go, right? Um, both of these stories are of interest because it tells us how we should deal with those trying to influence us to no purpose other than to hear themselves talk or have influence over another or to stuff their own pockets, right? But there's no real purpose behind them influencing us other than just cuz. The first story, the one with Orpheus, tells us that if we're skilled enough to play our own music, that is the way to not be lured by the song of the sirens. He was playing his music so eloquently and so loudly that not just him, but everyone else aboard the ship was able to safely get by these sirens. I think there was only one person on his ship who jumped into the ocean from hearing the siren song. But everybody else was able to safely go, oh, wow, the music that you're playing is so great. They didn't even acknowledge that there was sirens singing, right? Um, and so that means if we can play our own song really loudly, really eloquently, we're skilled in that manner, then we don't have to look to others to entertain us or to call to us, or we don't have to be looking to consume some content, but rather we can create and produce our own. And again, this takes skill, but we could lead ourselves, right? The other story says that if we adhere to our purpose, and actually both of these have this in common, if we adhere to our purpose tightly, and literally Odysseus was stuck to the mast of the ship, right? But we give ourselves no option but to resist and have everyone in our company, literally all those around us, do the same and aid us in this goal, then we can succeed. In practical terms, that means turn off the TV or the constant stream of YouTube or Netflix or whatever your streaming of choice is and have a greater purpose. That's what both of these stories basically say. I would suggest choosing the greatest possible purpose for yourself, the greatest possible purpose you can have. And that's what I've done. I've adopted the purpose of creating the world to be the absolute best we could possibly make it for the next generation. And that means we would actually have to work together to not just simply create a better world, but really, literally the best that we could possibly make it. Meaning we'd have to overcome petty differences in opinion and actually sit through and work out, hey, this thing that you're arguing for is just based on a personal bias. Maybe, it feels good to you or whatever, but you got to actually work out what is the result that it's going to have or the effect that it's going to have on the next generation and all those that would be affected by this decision, right? And you know what? In full disclosure, I'm looking for others to join me. So this is me playing my lyre like Orpheus. This is my song, and I hope that it is loud enough and beautiful enough that it will drown out the sound of the sirens for others. The benefit to you is you save your life from certain doom, right? Or at least from wasting your life just being entertained and not being fulfilled. And I get to do things like support families to be stronger, to be happier, um, and support individuals to grow stronger. And together, we can become more confident in our abilities. And did I mention also creating the next generation of genius children who will help us to solve the world's biggest problems and be incredibly skilled themselves? If you're at all interested in being a part of this purpose, I encourage you to send me a message via either email or messenger, which you can find the links for those in the description of this video. And let's actually have a conversation going. I'm really interested to meet people who actually care and are looking to make a difference in this world. Because I sincerely believe that our kids deserve the best and we can make that happen. And it's our responsibility to make that happen. So I look forward to speaking to you and continuing on this journey with you. See you.